recording. That one didn't have all the static either.
Yeah. Hey guys, we're here with Jared Adams, my friend. We've come here a couple times to try to record a podcast, and it has not worked. We've had scheduling problems. We've had recorded a podcast, and it didn't
record.
Didn't have it recorded, but didn't have audio. And we showed up here one time and couldn't get into the building. So
it's gonna work this time.
It's gonna work this time.
Yeah. So, thanks for having me.
Yeah. We've been trying to get this done for a while, so it's going to be good to finally do it. And I'm pretty sure we said that same thing last time, but
just keep trying until you get it.
Yeah. So, Jared, what do you do?
I'm a general contractor. Just an old construction worker, really.
Yeah. Post frame.
Yeah, we do. We've last, I don't know, 4 or 5 years, we've specialized in post frame. So pole barns, and that's kind of where the barn dominium thing came from, is post frame pole barns. And they've been around a long time, mostly back east and in the South. But they've really taken off here in the Intermountain West in the last 5-6 years, big time.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what we really chase, is all aspects post frame.
Yeah. Well, it's cool. You guys do good work.
Yeah.
And you do a little bit of concrete too.
Yeah. I poured a lot of concrete when I first moved to Utah years ago. And then we kind of found the need to have to do it ourselves, because it was tough to get subs on the job when you needed them. And so we'll just start doing it. And I like doing it. And it's contrary to what a lot of people believe. For me, it's way easier on my body than framing.
That's something I always talk about with one of my friends that works with us. That the concrete really isn't that hard. I mean, I think if you're, I've had times where our job is very difficult, and it's just very hard labor.
Yep.
And constantly pushing, especially out in the heat and all that. But overall, and especially once you start to get used to it and you know what to do, when the only time it's actually very hard is when you're behind on something, or you come across some sort of problem, like you get 2 loads from the concrete company that are completely different. One of them sets up super fast. Like, it's not necessarily doing the job if you know how. It's all the problems you can run into.
Yeah, you get some spurts of high intensity.
Yeah.
Which with concrete guys is probably every morning.
Yeah.
But it's just not as hard on your body, I think, as other things. And that's not bragging. I've been a framer for so long, but that framing is, like, for me, has always been high intensity all day, like grab studs. And if your hands are empty, you're running.
Yeah.
You just hustle all the time.
Well, I think that's a little bit more probably on your job than other people's, because I see a lot of framers that are not that way.
Yeah, these are all personal struggles, probably.
Yeah. No, I see a lot of framers and really a lot of and that that brings us to a point. It kind of is probably doing it to yourself, really.
Oh yeah.
Because it's because you work as hard as you want or think that you need to. So, and it can be a good or bad thing, It's not a bad thing to work hard.
Well, we're doing a job right now. We're building the shop, and another builder's is building the house. And that guy, he's mid to late 60s. He's a great builder. He's one of those guys that does one house at a time. And I'm watching him and his son build this house, and I haven't seen them carry a sheet of plywood by themselves. Not one. And so, like, if you saw young guys doing that, you'd be like, what are they doing? You could build that house so much faster.
Yeah.
But that's how he's stayed in the business. He doesn't get carried away. It's just like slow and steady wins the race. And it's going to take them twice as long to frame this really nice big house. but I've never seen them break a Sawzall out to fix like wall heights, and because they're hustling, and they don't lift any walls by hand. They just get the forklift in there, and there's no reason none of us can't do that. We've just sold ourselves on. We're tough, and it's interesting, all the mental aspects to all the business.
Well, it's weird because you come across people that take it too far and try to reinvent the wheel on everything that you do and try to make every single thing easier. And I see a lot of concrete videos online of people just doing, I don't know, just dumb things, I feel like, to make things, easier, or like, better. And it doesn't end up being any.
If it's complicated, it's better, right?
I guess. And just, you can go all day on that topic. People trying to reinvent the wheel just because, but
sell a new product or whatever.
Yeah.
Like the vibrating bull floats.
Oh my heck. Yeah.
And all the things that at sometimes would be nice when the mud hits the ground way too hot. But
there's always things you can do to, not, I mean, it's just not necessary, but whatever.
Yeah.
People just do that.
It's the gadget age.
Yeah.
Then you hear the stories about the old guys when they'd pour the whole basement floor, and then they would build a bull float out of the 2x8 that's sitting on the job, and and they just made it work. And here we're just scrambling. I don't know. It's interesting how things evolve.
Yeah. No, we probably do things a little bit of the old school way. Like we still still hand rod everything.
Yeah, you do. I've watched that.
Yeah. And I think it's that little bit of personal, that hands-on touch that gives it, you can help make sure that floors are flat.
Yep.
If you don't know what you're doing and you only try to use the Vibra-Screed or whatever, it isn't.
It's not as good.
It's not going to get as flat. So
for sure. Yeah. Well, and that resonates.
Yeah.
Even if that aspect doesn't make it better, you believe it does.
Yeah.
And it resonates through your entire business.
Yeah.
And so the mental aspect of every business is really fascinating to me. Like what makes this guy more successful than this guy.
Yeah.
And it may just be one little tweak in his head that he believes this one little thing, and it affects everything. Those are interesting things.
Yeah. So your post frame business, I know you told me since you joined the Lion's Den that you have made some pretty big changes or leaps in like pricing and
yeah, for sure,
all sorts of different things. So how has that gone for you?
That's been the whole coaching thing is interesting. So it's probably been 4 or 5 years ago. The guy that got us into doing post frame was a contractor that just his crew, he basically fired his whole crew. And so me and my guys went and started doing his work. And he told me this was kind of at the time we had transitioned to doing our own post frame, and he was looking to get into a different business. So we weren't working together much. And he called me one day. He's like, "Hey, have you ever thought about getting a coach?" And, like everybody just totally like, yeah, right. Yeah. I know what that guy's going to tell me. And I'm not doing that, all these things. And, so of course I didn't call the guy because I'm like, how much does he charge? And, well, he charges everybody different. And I'm like, I'm not going to give this guy $5,000 to tell me that I need to hire more people, because I know exactly what's. Anyways, so a couple of years go by, and I'm like, we've got so much work that I'm just anxiety through the roof. I'm not sleeping at night, and I never had that. And so Sean Whalen pops up, and it was like, oh, I'm going to try it. I'll try it for a month.
Yeah. And
just some of the things he said are, kind of working out and kind of making sense. And then I went so Sean will do these things called fly-ins. Yeah. So you pay to be in the group, and then you pay extra to go to the fly-in. And it's for some people, it's a lot of money. It's not cheap.
Mhm.
Um, and so I go to this fly-in, there's like 40 people there. And he goes around the room, introduce yourself. Why are you here? And I'm like, man, I am doing what I love, but I'm lost. Like it just anxiety, just I've got too much going on. And he goes, oh, that's easy. Double your prices. And so I'm like, oh, okay, I'll try that. And just that's a whole different game. That didn't solve my problems, by the way.
Yeah.
There is so much to like valuing yourself.
Mhm.
And when a lot of people listen to this, they're going to be like, oh, you're greedy or whatever. I wasn't charging enough anyways.
Yeah.
I guarantee I'm still not.
Yeah.
But you run into things that in your own head, like seriously, if you sat down right now and said, okay, I charge $100 for this product. Now I'm going to charge 200, and you actually do it. Just the train that's running through your head of what people are going to say, what people are going to think, and the things that you're telling yourself of, well, I'm ripping people off now. I'm like, it is crazy. And so that's been 2 years ago. I still, every time I sit down to do bids, when I start to do whatever I need to do to be where I should be, those same things, you never get rid of that. I mean, it gets easier. But I think it comes down to valuing yourself. Because we have a problem in probably everywhere, not just this country, but in construction, of valuing ourselves, because we see ourselves as a lot of us as filthy construction workers. Like,
yeah, well, that's an important thing that me and Jake Dancy talked about on my last interview. People, like, the whole idea around construction workers, around trade people, is like, well, you're just,
yep,
you weren't smart enough to go to college.
Yep.
You're not, you can't sit still in a seat in a desk all day. So you're just going to be, just going to work in construction.
Yeah. That's what you did because nothing else. It was just like, well,
anything else. That's like your last resort.
Yeah.
And so how can we possibly expect anybody to go into these jobs and actually care about what they're doing and actually have a fulfilled life, when in the back of their mind it's like, well, I just wasn't good enough for anything else.
Yeah, there's a yeah, I was dead scrolling Instagram last night, and I found this. There's a guy who has a page. He's got like a green vest on, and he's got a leaf blower, and he's walking down the sidewalk, and as girls walk by, he's like, hey, trying to talk to him, get their number, and they totally blow him off. I mean, blatantly, oh, you're not my type.
Yeah.
I don't give my numbers to boys like you, blah, blah, blah. And then he walks over to his, I don't even know what kind of car it is, Bugatti. It's a supercar. So it's probably a $500,000 car. Yeah. And just puts his hand on the door to get in, and they whip right around. Like, oh, hey, you didn't tell me. You didn't tell me you had that.
You didn't tell me you were successful.
Yeah. And it's like, that's what a lot of people tell themselves. And I've had arguments with people like, oh yeah, that job won't get you anywhere. You're going to wear your body out. You're going to blah, blah, blah. But I was lucky, and I worked for the guys that I worked for. They went a long ways into their old age, still working. Kind of like the guy I was just talking about. They're still working, and they're healthy, and they've just taken care of themselves to where is really, I mean, you get your injuries and your aches and pains more than other people probably, but
well, I would actually argue that point, because a lot of people that just sit at a desk all day are destroying their bodies.
Oh yeah.
And they have no idea.
Yeah. Sitting's like the worst.
We weren't built to sit down in a chair like that.
Yeah.
And especially doing that all day. And then a lot of these people get home and they go sit at a couch and watch TV and
Yep.
stuff, and they're not active, and they're not like
Right.
trying to, strengthen their body and do any of that. And then you add in not eating a proper diet and eating too
Yep.
much and getting overweight. Like, I don't know. And that's part of the thing with me that I've been noticing is so many people are like, oh, you do concrete or you do construction? That's hard work.
Yeah.
Be ready for back pain, be ready for shoulder pain, be ready for, all of this stuff. And I'm like, you sit at a desk all day, get ready to have back surgery. Like
Yeah.
when you destroy your back in however long, because that's how it goes.
And your shoulders are hunched forward.
Oh yeah.
And you can't fix them.
Don't have proper posture. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know anybody. Man, I know a few guys with some back problems. But they didn't get them from construction.
No.
They got them from their snowmobile.
Yeah.
Or, or whatever. And
Yeah.
then they had to have back surgeries, and they've had a rough time kind of doing what they did when they were 20 in construction. But, yeah. And I think that narrative's changing a little bit. And I really think that give it just a couple more years, and the YouTube, Instagram, Instafluencer you're going to have a guy be like, hey, here's the secret to making $10,000. And we already have, there's a guy on Instagram right now that does, sells window washing, door to door window washing, makes thousands of dollars a day. And he's showing you how to do it. That's kind of a construction type service, washing windows.
Yeah.
But I think you're going to see more of that just because so few people want to do it now.
Yeah.
And it's a place to really make where I think you can.
Well, supply and demand. I mean, it's
yeah.
There's such a demand for it, and there's so few people that want to.
Yep.
And I don't necessarily think that we can't find good help, because I think people are out there, but a lot of guys don't know how to find good help,
right?
Good employees. So that just makes it even harder.
Yeah.
So,
well, and it's one thing I've noticed a lot lately is we're not, as a industry in construction, we're not paying enough. Like it used to be a place where with the guy with the tattoos went because he wanted to live whatever lifestyle, but he knew he could make $3 or $4 more an hour to go to do that job. And now, like, you make more money going to work for Walmart at your steady job, because you can eat your benefits and you get all these things. And I think that comes back to the valuing yourself, to where if you don't have, Ryan Stewman says, if you don't have ballers on your payroll and you're a baller, you got a problem.
Yeah.
And so we're just not, period. We're just not paying our help enough.
Yeah. Well, that's something that I've seen him, and I think Sean Whalen talk about actually, is they pride themselves on what their employees are driving to their building, not what they have, not what the physical possessions that they have. It's like, what are my employees doing? How are they able to take care of their family? What are they driving to like work? You know, because like if all of your employees are driving sports cars and like, are doing really well for themselves and taking care of their families and stuff, like, well, it sounds like you're winning at a business.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it just is kind of, is it fair that the contractor's wife is driving a brand new Jeep with the red tow hooks and your guy can't even make it to work? Now he might be irresponsible with money or whatever, but, or just buying too many smokes or drinking it away, which is a construction thing.
Oh, that's
but
terrible.
That just having that attitude changes a lot of things.
Yeah.
And then it just comes back to you just not charging enough.
Yeah.
And it's not up to anybody else what you're charging. It's up to you.
Yeah.
Like everybody says, oh, what's the market? What's the market for a good foreman? What's the market for a good framer these days? Blah, blah, blah. The market is whatever you pay, like whatever keeps them on your payroll, because you can't do it without them. And I mean, I hear that all the time. What should I pay this guy? Am I paying this guy enough?
Mhm.
It's like, is it making you uncomfortable? Like, are you paying just enough to be like, I hope we can,
Yeah.
I hope I can pay him this much?
Yeah.
Because if you're not pushing just a little bit all the time, you're not gonna, you're not gonna bump your prices up. You're not gonna start chasing some of
Yeah.
those jobs that maybe you
Yeah.
should be doing. Um, and valuing yourself to say, I should be doing these bigger jobs and finding customers that will actually pay it.
Yeah.
And it's such a, I hate the word journey, but that's what it is
Yeah.
inside of your head.
Oh yeah, it is.
Because it's
For
the only thing
sure.
holding you back.
Well, the only way you can grow and evolve is by pushing yourself and getting uncomfortable. So the only way that you're going to get to that point is,
Yeah.
I mean, like you said, like bumping your employees' pay and like getting uncomfortable. I mean, like, okay, I don't know if how are we going to keep doing this? Like, I'm only charging this much. I
Yep.
need to start charging X amount. And that's hard because I know a lot of people get concerned because they're like, well, if I start charging a whole bunch, then it's just,
Yep.
they're just going to start going with other people, because there are a ton of people that'll just do it for
Oh yeah.
pennies.
Yeah.
Pennies.
You can find
Oh, yeah.
whatever deal you want. You can pay whatever you want
Yeah.
for construction.
Yeah. So the thing and I don't remember, I think it was Andy Elliott. Oh, it was, you know what? It was the podcast you sent me from Andy Elliott with he was on somebody's podcast,
Yeah.
and he was like, because he's a used car salesman,
Yep.
and or a car salesman, and they get the absolute worst rap out there. I mean,
Oh yeah.
you think
Yeah.
about a car salesman, like if anytime I've walked into a dealership, I'm like, someone starts running up to me all,
Yeah.
happy, smiling. I'm like, just I'm just looking, like, I don't,
Yeah.
and because it's like, what they're gonna do. You know what they're gonna try to do. They're gonna try to bump you on the price. They're gonna try to do all that stuff. Something he said in relation to that, he was like, I got to the point where I knew everything was gonna be too much. Everything was gonna be more than you wanted to pay, more
Yep.
than they wanted to pay, always.
Yep.
But does that, does that change what needs to be done? Like, does that
Right.
change what it costs? No.
It's always going to cost more than you want to pay.
Always going to cost more than you want to
Yep.
pay. And he was talking about that in relation to cars, and just, I think what he said is he started getting better at selling by being friendly and being, knowing these people and being all in, knowing their names, like all of that stuff. But he was like that, that's the way to do it. And
Build the
in some,
relationship.
build the relationships, and it's going to be more than they want to pay, but that's how much it costs.
Yeah. Yeah. It, going back to the coaching thing. So after I raised my prices, the point of that, and I think Sean's point of, well, I don't know what Sean was thinking at the time, but probably here's the fix. You'll make the same amount of money, have half the work, because you're going to weed out a lot of that stuff. That didn't happen. Like, and maybe it's because the economy went gangbusters for so long, but we've had this little kind of hiccup in the economy right now, and we haven't slowed down. The phone hasn't stopped ringing. But it probably started ringing more because,
well, time to double them again.
Well, maybe, right?
Yeah.
Because there's a strange thing where if something's free, people don't value it.
No, they don't value it all.
And I wasn't doing things for free. I was making a living, but there's just something to be said for the psychology of selling and I don't know. I'm still trying to figure those things out.
Yeah.
But that's part of the.
Well, a lot of people do themselves a disservice by giving out discounts all the time. Like, maybe this is more in like a product, selling a product field, but I think in construction, people will be like, oh yeah, well, you're a friend or family member, or I'll give you this at this discounted rate because we need your work or whatever. And people get it hooked on that. They pay that price for something and they want to pay it again. They want to get the discounts again.
Yeah.
And something I heard, and I don't even remember who said it or when I heard it, was people get addicted to discounts, but they don't get addicted to free necessarily. So you free value you're adding or whatever. Doesn't necessarily have to be your price tag is like, free work or whatever, but like add in, a deal. But like, that's the thing that I'm thinking is a lot of people are given the discounts and their general contractors or their buddies or whatever. Like people they really get hooked on that. And then what happens then if they go refer to somebody else, they'll be like, oh yeah, he gave me a really good deal. He gave me a discount.
Yeah.
And then it's expected. It's like, oh yeah, well, you're going to do this for me for this price. And it's like, no, that's not what it.
Yeah. It's interesting. Every time I jump onto Facebook, the dumpster fire that it is.
Yeah.
So I've, some of the classified pages that just as you're scrolling pops up, and it's every time it's like, I'm looking for a plumber to change out a water heater that charges fair prices. Yeah. And it's every time it's like, so they have this scarcity built in that everybody is going to screw them. And they want somebody that's fair. And at the end of the day, the fair price is what the two parties have agreed to.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah. It's an agreement between two people.
Yeah. Everybody's welcome to go get other bids.
Yeah.
And it's just that psychology. Like I said, it's just fascinating.
It's weird because, and I've been taking this, figuring this out on a different end on the website. So it's like, it's hard to kind of figure out what to charge people. And a lot of times I just kind of charge it's weird, it's almost like cut and dry on concrete, but like in construction, like, oh yeah, this costs this much, this costs this much. And then you start adding on like a 50%, to 50% profit, or like you do all that stuff, but it's kind of hard to figure out how to price things. And again, I get in my head about that. It's like, well, they're going to say about it and it's going to be too much. And and that's the thing is, like we said, it's always too much, but you pay for the value. Yeah. And I think it's just starting to change a little bit because of the whole social media age, and people are like, no, look, it actually costs that much. Like, you guys are being ridiculous.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, and you really don't know your own costs.
Yeah.
I heard a garage door salesman. He was on Brad Lee's podcast, and that guy charges a ton of money for garage doors, like to the point where I probably wouldn't use him.
Yeah.
Because it's just he's found a different market, and somebody got after him like, don't you feel like you're screwing people?
Yeah.
And he's like, well, I provide benefits for all my employees.
I saw him on a social media video, clip. I think he was talking about this in front of a group of people or something too.
Yep. And he's like, they all drive nice new vans. They're safe. Mm-hmm. We're up to date and we're up to code and we have all the safety stuff. And it's like, these other companies can't do it because they can't afford it. And so you're telling me I'm screwing people? And, so we're all telling ourselves those things.
Well, it's interesting because that would be the idea of a successful construction company. Like, your employees are taken care of, you have new equipment, you have new trucks, you have all that stuff. And I would say that's a pretty reasonable assumption, but I actually saw a video from Dave Ramsey, and I don't really like much of what he has to say just because it's all so much on just hold back.
Yeah.
Like, hold back, not go all in. And I think that's useful information for people that have spending problems. But I don't think for the general, maybe for the general population, maybe for the general people.
Yep.
Maybe. But a lot of his thing is like, you got to hold back. You got to pull back. You got to spend less. You got to, do all that stuff. Mm-hmm. He said something like, the construction guys that you see on the job with these brand new trucks are the idiots. And he's like, the people that are making the money are driving 20-year-old trucks and all this crap. And I was like, what do you mean? The people that like the 20-year-old vehicles that are beat to crap and like need
the guy,
repairs all the time and aren't reliable. And
right.
I-
The guy that can't show up.
yeah.
Dave Ramsey's really good for, I used to follow him a lot.
Yeah.
Because he was a guy that that really resonated with me because I was a money saver.
Yeah.
Like I didn't want to be in debt. I had all these things, but everybody else was like, no, you need to be in debt. You need to leverage everything to the, and, but then I found that guy and he's like, oh no, save your money, pay it off.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of his advice is really good.
Yeah.
And I would even say the debt-free part is great too.
Yeah. Yeah.
For
sure.
So I followed that for a long time. This last year, I don't follow that anymore, but I think it's a healthy thing to follow his advice to, so I built whatever my construction company is totally debt free. I won't take on debt for that because that you will do. I shouldn't say you, but for me, I'll take on jobs that I don't really want to do. I mean, I like doing it all, but I'll take on jobs that maybe aren't post frame because it's like, well, that's the only thing in a month. I don't have anything else. And I better have that because I got to make the payment on the skidster and the truck and the shop and all the things. Whereas if you're totally debt free, you have a freedom there to, or I have a freedom to be like, okay, I'm going to pass on that one because I think something else will come along that's really in the direction that I want to head. And that has made a massive difference for me.
I do think that also comes down to like what we talked about prices and stuff. As long as you're making enough money and charging enough and busy. I mean,
that's what Tom Reber, he's runs the Contractor Fight.
I'm actually supposed to be doing a podcast with him soon. So.
Oh, really? Yeah. He's a cool guy and puts out a ton of really good information. And he calls it breathing room. And he's a guy. So I found him right after kind of went through some of these things with Sean. And what he's preaching for contractors is exactly where I went to. He's like, you need to be making 50% profit margins. And the hate he gets for that on YouTube and other places and Instagram is awesome. And it's interesting to watch inside it. So he has a paid group and a not paid group on Facebook. And I'm in both of those, and you can see the differences in the two groups. Cool. I mean, there's people in the free group that will argue and fight about you're charging too much and ripping people off. And he's an interesting guy. He's done a lot of cool stuff for contractors.
Yeah. I'm interested to kind of hear a little bit about his, because he was a contractor, right?
Yeah, he was a painting contractor.
Yeah. He was a contractor for a while. And then I don't know how long. I'm assuming quite a while.
I think quite a while.
And then he stopped to coach people.
Yep.
So I've had a lot of people on the podcast that are coaches. So, and I think that's good. I think that people need that.
Yeah. Cause there's different levels. Like everybody's at, I mean, you got a guy that has no money coaching, but he still has something to provide for the guy that's making $9 an hour, and his group costs $50 or whatever. It's well worth that kid to be in that group, and you just keep moving up the line. Like Sean has more than I have by far. So he has a lot of good things to say. And I guess the last thing to say about the coaching stuff is it's really got nothing to do with business. That's why I joined that. But there's so much more. Like it's all the same. Life, your life and your business is all the same. So if you're mediocre with your marriage, your business is probably going to be kind of mediocre. Like
that's been probably one of the biggest takeaways I've had from coaching and from Sean. The business is the easy part, and everybody makes it out to be like the hard thing, and like the Sean is always saying, you know what, the business is the easy part, the money's the easy part. It's everything else in your life that is getting in the way of that because you're, lazy and don't show up, powerfully at home and do all that stuff. That's what's getting in your way of being successful.
Yeah, for sure.
And the amount of challenges that he has people do, and it's just something that you're not going to do on your own.
Yeah, you never.
But having this person here, like, hey, you need to do this, it's going to help you out.
Yep.
If you get into there and you get like, the problem with a lot of people is they'll get in there and he'll say to do something, like, for example, the social media posting, putting videos on.
Yep.
People are going to instantly be like, I don't want to do that. I don't need to do that.
Yeah.
Why would I?
Yeah. How do I do that? You start coming up with excuses.
Yeah. It's like, and it comes down to, they're like, well, I don't need that. My business is fine. I get enough business elsewhere.
Yep.
But missing the point that
right,
it's for yourself.
Yeah, it's got nothing to do with your business.
It's not it, and you should be posting them for you, doing it because it makes you uncomfortable. And and the side effect of that is you do get people coming to you for business through your social media, and like, or just people that you connect with in general.
Yeah.
And you actually through the coaching are about to be doing a deal. I don't know if you want to talk about that or not, but
that's fine.
You're going to be doing a deal with Sean.
Yeah.
Up in Logan.
Yeah, that was one of those fly-ins. So I think I've been to 4 fly-ins.
And before you start, you wouldn't have been able to do any of that if you hadn't already been putting the work and like making the connections and stuff. Like,
right,
you showed up, you were paying to be there.
Yep.
You've been in the group, putting the videos out there, doing all that stuff. You were in the mindset and the place that you were pretty much there. And he was just like, well, what's the problem?
Yeah. I just needed that.
Yeah.
To get to that next level. So it's like, yeah. So there's just a real estate deal that, that I've been wanting to do. I've done everything. I figured out years ago that, like, if you don't think you can, if there's some doubts that you have, just start doing it anyway. So you're going to act like you're going to do it. So any business you want to start or whatever, if you don't have the money, obviously you're not going to be putting money into it, but you can do everything else. And so there was this project that I wanted to do, a commercial real estate type thing. And I just like ran the numbers, like, hey, I think this could work. And then it's like, hey, let's see if we can find a lot. Lot pops up. Well, I can afford the lot, so I'm going to buy the lot. But the other $1 million is like, I don't know how I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
I could probably do it, but I don't have the guts to like go that deep. And so I mentioned something down to one of the fly-ins, to Sean, about it. And I'm not kidding you. As I'm saying it, maybe a minute later, Ryan Flint walks in the door. And Ryan Flint's one of the biggest commercial realtors in Utah. Super good guy.
And he actually did a training in the Den just recently. Did you watch that?
Yeah, I did.
Awesome. On relationships and all that.
But and he's all about, he's had a different formula he's used. And so anyways, he walks in and just to hang out, because he knows Sean so well and he knows the fly-ins going on, just stop in to add some value, build more relationships. And Sean goes, tell him what you want to do. And so I just ran it past him, and he's like, well, what's the one thing that's stopping you? I'm like, well, that big payment would probably sink me if economy goes broke. And, cause I started my business in 2007. So we had like a year, and I had no idea how much money I could make, but we had like a couple years of framing houses hard. And then we went to like no work.
Yeah.
I mean, we worked every single day, but we were doing handyman work. We made it just fine. But that PTS from that has caused a lot of problems, probably for how much risk you take. Cause I saw so many guys lose their houses. And
the people, like you said, I don't want to interrupt much again, but you said you guys were doing handyman work and just anything to get by, and a lot
Yep.
of people at that time were not adapting. They
Yeah.
weren't like, they were just trying to stick with the same thing that they were doing before and wasn't getting them anything. And a lot of people did go bankrupt and lose their businesses and houses and everything. So
yeah, it was an interesting time to live through.
Yeah.
But so anyways, I there's just some things that I don't dare go that far into debt by myself. And
yeah.
so these guys were like, well, let's partner on it.
Yeah.
And so I mean, we basically gave half the project to them, and they're really not doing any work. They're going to guarantee that it doesn't go broke.
Yeah.
But there's just so many more in the mind journey that's going on there that it's been so worth it. Even if this project falls through, just the things you learn from people who have done bigger deals.
Well, and just think about the opposite end of this when it works. And like you were saying, Sean's always sending you stuff like, hey, this is what we're doing. Hey, we're going to be building these all up and down the Wasatch Front. Like,
well, that's,
you get into the room with these bigger players and you're ready, you're willing, you have like really a plan. Like, they wouldn't have been at a point to jump in on it if you were like, well, I kind of want to, I don't have a property, don't really have a plan. Like,
right.
You had everything laid out. You just needed the money. And so they were like,
I just needed that. I was just looking for that push of confidence to be like, oh yeah, just do it.
And now they're going to be pushing to do even more if this first one goes good.
Yeah. It's so last weekend up at Jen and Nate's at their Lavender Festival, we talked to Sean for, I don't know, 45 minutes.
Oh, did you?
And I mean, this is the example of just being in that circle gives you. He's like, hey, we get that one done. This is what we need to do. And he whips out his phone and he just pulls up an Instagram page. I can't even remember, P1 garages or something. And it's these bougie garage condos. And there's that, like, they're marketed to guys with Ferraris and supercars and all this stuff. And it's really, really high end. And he's like, this is what we need to do down on the point of the mountain or whatever. And it's that getting in around those kind of people. Like, I never would have dreamed to go that far.
Yeah.
But it's just that extra push of like, oh, you mean that's possible? You know, it's like, we sit around and we go, I don't need a Ferrari. I wouldn't even want one of those. I wouldn't want a Lamborghini. That's so stupid. I wouldn't want a house like that. That's such a waste of money, blah, blah, blah. But it's because you've never been, and I'm not saying you have to want those things, these material possessions, whatever, but until you're around like those kind of people that are capable of getting there or see that you're capable of getting to certain places. And my examples are all material things, but they could be spiritual. It could be your marriage, your kids, whatever. Until you're around that and you see it, or somebody shows you that these things are possible, you're just a rat in a cage, and so, that coaching thing has been awesome.
It's they push you to, and this is something Sean is always talking about as well. Like he's always like, guys, you're thinking too small. Like you should be thinking, all the way up here, even if you're down here at this level, you should be acting with like this goal in mind, or like moving forward with, oh yeah, well, I want all of this stuff for me. But that also can't come if you don't have all the other areas in your life. And I think that's where people get like caught up, is like, they're not working on themselves. They're not working on their families, their relationships. They're just like, and then they don't think that they deserve anything better than what they have.
Right. So, it's like it all is just supposed to happen.
Yeah.
And what it really is who do you have to become? Sean says that all the time.
I have that as my screensaver on my phone.
Yeah.
That's one of the most powerful things I think I've heard.
Yeah. Who do you have to become to get to this point? Because what's the statistic like? I Googled it the other day. I can't remember. It's a really high number, 60, 70%. I might be totally lying, but it's a massive percentage of lottery winners go bankrupt.
Oh, I think it's 90% or
It's
80 or 90% go broke.
Yeah, it's
Well,
crazy.
People in football, NFL
Yeah.
players, most of them, when they leave the NFL, they blow all their money.
Yep.
They don't manage it properly, whatever. They make millions of dollars for years,
Right.
lose it all.
Yeah, and we look at that and go, well, that guy's an idiot. He should have just got a financial planner and blah, 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 and done this and that.
But they don't see all of the stupid mistakes they made. They don't see how they didn't have everything in their life in order.
Yep.
All they did really is like they played their sport, they played their game, they may have become a master at it. They didn't focus on anything else in their life. Right. And the people that did are the ones that still have the money, and you can tell and you can see them.
Yeah, they didn't become that person that was a steward of that money.
Yes.
And it's the same with your marriage. It's the same with your kids. It's the same. And I'm not there. I'm not there on any aspect.
Yeah.
Well, but knowing that you have to become something instead of it just happening to you, I think is such a mental shift, that it's such a different way to look at things that it takes you different places.
Yeah. Well, take a little bit of a spin on this. Like, a lot of that self-confidence doesn't come without being fit, without being in shape and healthy. Yeah. I mean, how could you possibly think like that if you're walking around at, 100 pounds overweight and you can barely get up off of the couch? Like, that's where a lot of this stuff comes. And that's kind of like the low hanging fruit. It's like there's these things that you can be doing right now that will change your outlook, change who you are, but a lot of people don't want to do it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's and I'm the least consistent person, especially in the summertime.
Yeah. Well, it's the consistency thing is the important part, but at the same time, what matters is that you're aware.
Yeah.
And I think that people aren't aware. I know you say you aren't consistent, but we've talked about this before where, like, you're always aware though that, like, oh man, like, I'm probably not doing what I need to be doing or should be. And it's like it's in the back of your mind. But a lot of people get to this point where their health, like, just completely takes a back burner. Yeah. And that goes to every other part of their life or like themselves, them as a person, completely takes a back seat, doesn't get any sort of attention, not working on their skill sets. They're not working on their body, their mind, and it just falls to the wayside. And that's why you see, 50% of marriages end in divorce right now. I mean, what a crazy, crazy thing. It's almost as if you have to put in work to make a marriage work, and people don't think that you have to become somebody that will be married in a marriage.
Right. Yeah. And it goes to say with, well, like I keep repeating, it's all the same. So you get behind on your fitness, it's really hard to get back. Like, if you used to run a mile and whatever, and you haven't ran in years, it's going to hurt.
Yeah.
Like, for me to run a mile hurts a lot because I don't run very often.
Yeah. And
so if you're not doing that with your marriage, with your kids, that consistency is everything. The consistent date night, and even, this idea of doing it when you don't want to do it. And it's kind of people get grossed out by that with the fitness industry, because it's so often it's David Goggins. It's like all in your face. I didn't want to be here. Yeah. I didn't want to be here, but I'm here anyways. And I'm doing it. But that comes down to date night.
Yeah.
Like doing it every week but not feeling like it. Like, well, I'm tired, or we're not getting along so great right now, so screw it, or I'm not going to go because you're being whatever, and going anyways.
Yeah.
Because it's just the consistency. And that, and I've seen that in my business of just showing up Like we go to work every day.
Hmm.
Even if it's raining, we're going to show up at 7. And if it's not going to work out, if we're not going to,
Yeah.
if we're going to be super inefficient in the rain or the snow or the cold,
then you call it
then
off,
we'll go
yeah.
home. But that
Yeah.
consistency of just showing up
Yeah.
every day, because there's always more often than not another opportunity pops up for you to be productive inside of that business space or
Yeah.
your marriage space or
Well,
whatever.
it comes to, the consistent, like, I don't know if you have a specific morning routine that you go through or whatever, but like that's something that I've never had really. I mean, it's always been roll out of bed and get dressed and go to work and
Yeah.
like, stop at the gas station and get a snack or whatever on the way there. And
Right.
I've never really had one until maybe the last year or so when I've been bringing lunch to work, and I'll get up in the morning and I'll make my lunch and I'll make coffee, and I'll get up probably, I mean, an hour before I even need to leave. And I've been doing a cold shower in the morning recently. Like I'd get some work done on my computer, maybe for the podcast or whatever. But having that and doing that consistently has led to everything else improving. Like you almost add habits and add things in and start doing them consistently, and everything else starts to improve around it. So it's like, it's a weird dichotomy there, because and I don't think people realize that, because I have people ask me all the time, like, how much I work out, how often I work out. On one hand, I'll tell them, 3 days a week is all I really do. And even right now, I really only do 2 days a week of lifting weights. And then the other 3 days I do kind of like 20-minute knees over toe guy deal. I do that. And so it's not very much. It's like 20 minutes of just stuff that I can do inside the house.
Right.
And people will look at me and they'll be like, what? 3 days a week, 2 days a week? I'm like, yeah, that's all I do. Yeah. Just been doing it consistently for 6 years or whatever. I've never missed more than a week. And that's the only thing I've ever really known is like, do something, do it consistently.
Yeah.
You'll see the results. People will look at me, and I've had people think I'm on steroids before. And I'm like,
it's a compliment.
If I'm on if I was on steroids, you'd know.
Oh yeah.
I'd be freaking huge. I'm like, there's no way. Like, how could you possibly think that? But that's where the disconnect is. I think a lot of people don't realize that it just takes consistently trying to be better. Whatever it is you're doing, trying to be better, every day, trying to be better with your spouse in your marriage, every day, trying to be better with your fitness, with your diet, with your morning routine, with your work. Like, that's all it takes.
Yeah. I don't have much of a morning routine. I'll get into a routine, and then the season will shift, and then we'll start getting up, like waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning or something. Yeah. And then that kind of goes out the window. But I've always kind of had the thought of what Alex Hormozy talks about. He's like, because Alex Hormozy makes fun of routines.
Yeah.
Makes fun of routines and affirmations and stuff. He's just like, I just get out of bed and I go to work.
Yeah. Well, and that's what it comes down to, really.
Yeah. And I think it's important if you think it's important.
Yeah.
Like if it works for you, then you better do it every day. Because I've done like last winter, I was getting up and doing the cold plunge thing every morning. Yeah. And I guarantee, like, you force yourself every morning, just out of bed. Plus it's like 10 degrees outside, and I'm going to go freeze all day, but I'm going to get in this water that's 40 degrees for 3 minutes or whatever. That's an interesting, you conquered that one thing. And so a lot of people make fun of it, and I do too. It's like, what's the hardest thing about doing a cold plunge?
Yeah.
Not posting it on social media,
Exactly.
But, just standing over that water for 5 minutes, like, okay, 1, 2, 3,
finally go. Yeah.
Okay. No, really this time, 1, 2, 3, go, and, just beating yourself beating your brain up enough to be like, no, well, this is what we're going to do.
Yeah.
I think those type of decisions resonate.
Yeah.
Through everything.
Well, you know, I think you could probably say the general consensus of what we've been talking about is overcoming your self-doubt and your own like
Bullshit. Your own
bullshit.
bullshit.
Really, really. Because like that's beating out your own excuses. Because that's
Yep.
what happens is like
Oh
people will
man.
start working out.
Yep.
They'll go, every single day. They'll go at it hard for a week, 2 weeks, a month.
Yeah.
And then they'll have a day where it's like, oh man, I'm just too tired. I can't go.
Yeah.
The next day, oh man,
Yeah, that's me.
I just need a break. Then they go one day and then it's like, oh man, I just need a break. And then it's like all of a sudden they don't go at all. And
Yeah.
then 3 months later, they'll be like, oh, I'm going to start going again.
Yeah.
And it's just getting over that hump. And I think the reason that the morning routines are good is not necessarily because, oh yeah, you need a morning routine, because everybody's always like, oh yeah, I have this morning routine. I wake up, I read for 20 minutes, I pray, I do all this stuff. And it's like, I mean, I don't know if I believe you, but
yeah, I don't think
first of all, nobody like can just start that routine.
Yeah.
It just comes down to getting up and doing something that you really don't want to do, because nobody wants to do anything when they get out of bed.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to like get up and get after it out of bed. But that's kind of the easiest part of the day, I think, where you have, I think, and for me, this is just for me, like in the morning, if I get up and get out of bed, I have less, I don't know if I could say energy or like willpower to like resist doing something. I have less excuses.
Yep.
For when I take like a cold shower in the morning, I almost can just go jump it right in the cold shower.
Yeah.
Any part of the day after that, I'm
gets
like,
tougher. Your energy is lower.
Oh my gosh. Like
Yeah.
It's almost as if I can't, it's a lot harder to come up with, excuses to fight something. So it's almost like that's a low hanging fruit in the morning, is getting something accomplished that you don't want to do, but it's not necessarily like you're going to fight yourself super hard for it.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. If you get up and knock out those things that you want to do,
and then the rest of the day, it's
then you
way
can
easier.
sail through it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
The whole rest of the day.
Yeah. It makes a big difference for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is a conversation around all this that I have a hard time with. I don't know if you've seen a lot of my social media videos. I'm always talking about working out and all that. And
yeah,
I think people just, I think that people think you either have to be like, doing this morning routine that's an hour long, like you have all this stuff, or you have to be working out and going every day for an hour at the gym every single day, or like you have to be all of this intensity or not at all.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of the problem with how people go about their life. It's like they think that they have to be, all the way, I don't know if I should say all the way in, but they have to be like this super, advanced form of what they're doing. Otherwise it's not worth it.
Yeah. And that's all you see too.
Yeah.
Like, so everybody's on doing social media, whether they, except a few old guys that you might know, but everybody's seeing, I drink 2 gallons of water a day, and I eat this, and I eat this, and I never eat this, and blah, blah. But you're seeing the ultra committed people
after years of getting to the,
yeah. But then at the same time, those same people that are selling their programs and they're really trying to help people, they think you should be there too.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big problem in that inside of the fitness thing is most people they don't need all that old other stuff. They need to start with like step 1, drink water.
Yeah.
You know how many people I know
don't drink enough water?
They drink Mountain Dew or Pepsi, and that's their hydration. That's all
they're,
which is probably worse than smoking.
Oh yeah.
So instead of, I guess everybody tries to throw themselves into this massive discipline type thing, and it's just not possible to go that far. But there's no in between.
Yeah.
And maybe there's not an in between. Maybe people have to go all in to make it work. But
I like to think about discipline, and I haven't come up with a really like good way to describe this. I'll do my best here. You almost have like this level everybody has like this level of discipline, like they can get themselves to do things. But like if the task is greater than that discipline, it's so much harder. And the more things you do force yourself to do that you don't want to do during the day, like you almost have like this level and it depletes. And it takes a long time to build that amount, that level of willpower you have to like force yourself to do things in it, because people will they'll jump all in, like I said, and they'll be like, okay, well, I need to do this and this and this and this. And they start going through their list, and it's hard to jump right into that and do that every single day all the time, because you don't really have all that much willpower. Like
you haven't become that
you
person.
haven't become the person. You haven't become able to push yourself that far for that long, because it takes time. It's not like you can just jump straight into working out every single day and expect that for like an hour or two every single day and expect to be able to do that for all this time. And, you know, and that's kind of why I'm always trying to push people, like, and tell people that I only work out 3 times a week, 2 times a week. And it's like 45 minutes. And it'll be like, people will be like, whoa. I'm like, that's all it takes. I mean, and you do that and it's like easier to stick to it too, because you're not like forcing yourself to do this thing that's super hard. And you know, part of that is like, if you want to, it's a little bit easier to do those things. But I don't know if any of that makes sense, but like,
well, you know, for a guy like you and me, where you're getting a lot of intense exercise. You know, there's a lot of people like, well, you're in construction. A lot of the fitness people are like, well, your body is used to that, so now you elevate to this. But what I've found is there's a lot of things that I haven't been able to easily do with my body that other people can, because I'm walking like 17,000 steps a day, and a lot of it is just hustling. And so when you do a workout, you're probably going backwards. You know, you're probably doing so much more damage, and now your body, and then tomorrow you're going to go do it again and again and again. And you never get the healing.
This is an interesting discussion, because I think that people's bodies can handle a lot more than they think.
I think so too.
And if you aren't doing it properly, and this is like, if you're not eating properly, if you're not resting, if you're not drinking enough water, I think you can do more damage. But if you are, and you're doing your workouts, like, really, I mean, what we don't get on a construction site is strengthening muscles past a certain point. You kind of get strengthen muscles to a point, and then it's endurance. More like, it's more like a long haul. Like, say if you were talking about working out, it's lifting heavy weights versus lifting light weights for a bunch of reps.
It's different. It's a whole different kind of exercise.
So what I am always thinking, it's like, if you are doing your workouts so that you're trying to strengthen your body and you're getting the proper rest and all that, like, it makes it better. And you get to a point in the construction jobs where you get used to that, and you get used to the level of output that you have, and it becomes easier. And that's what I've noticed, because like, new guys on our jobs, they have a hard time. But after, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months, a year, it's like easy. And that's the whole point with working out, is you are always progressively overloading that. So there is a bunch of levels to that. I think you need to have the rest and the nutrition and all that. But it's the constantly pushing yourself that you don't get in construction. You're not constantly doing a progressive overload in construction. It's not always getting harder.
That's true.
And your body isn't always getting stronger in response to it. It's always the same. So if you aren't strengthening your body, all you're doing is wearing out your body. So that's kind of where I take a little bit of a difference. And it's not like I'm saying to go lift weights a whole bunch. Like I said, I only lift weights a few times a week. And you also have to do the movements that you're doing every day, kind of like in reverse, because you wear out your body so much in all of the things that you do all the time, but you don't strengthen like the opposite movement, like,
Yeah, there's a yeah. So for me, like years ago, I don't know, it's been probably 8 or 9 years ago now. I hurt my back really bad. I don't know what I did.
Yeah.
I came back from lunch. That's what I did. And that was it. Like, I don't know if I slipped a disc. I couldn't get doctors to, they wanted me to go through all the process before they'd give me an MRI.
Mhm.
And so I found witch doctors and stuff like that,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
never actually got the MRI. But I ended up, that's when I got into weightlifting, I guess,
Yeah.
or exercise, because I never was before. And that fixed my back. Like that saved me. I really don't have any back problems anymore. Unless I go a little heavy on deadlifts, it won't be my back. It'll be my hips get real tight.
Yeah.
But yeah, so there's all these accessory muscles that you're not working on the job. And, they're massively important.
Oh yeah.
So anytime I'll start to get a little sore or whatever, it's like, okay, you got to get more consistent in the gym or whatever, or with some rehab, like Trevor Bachmeyer, Smashworks. He's a coach that I use because I really like his workouts. But all that being said, the last couple of years, so I'm 44 now, the last couple of years, when I go, especially this time of year, kind of that June, July, well, really, really all summer and early fall, we're going really hard, get up early. I'm not getting as much sleep as I should, because I mean, it doesn't get dark till 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
And if you're going to go to work and do all the other things, 6-7 hours is really common. I mean, so what happens is, for me, the last couple of years, if I'm trying to work out every day or every other day, the check engine light starts coming on a little bit, and I didn't notice that before. And it's not necessarily the muscles that hurt, but my hands go, just probably arthritis and whatever. And so I notice where the problem is I'm not getting the sleep or the rest, but I'll wake up at 5 o'clock and I'll be moving till 10 o'clock at night, whether it's stuff with horses or hay or working somewhere or going for a hike or whatever.
Well, I mean, if you're doing all that stuff, like that's already beyond like what you say. Back when I was kind of, I don't know if I can't remember if it was the summer before I graduated high school or not. I was working for my dad doing concrete back then. And then I'd go work on a farm, moving sprinkler pipe, moving hay, all that stuff until 10 o'clock. I'd do that. And I felt it was awesome, but I didn't work out back then. But it was shortly after that when all I was doing was was doing the construction. That's all I was doing. I started to get like shoulder pain, back pain, and I was like, man, this is not right. And I was like, didn't feel good ever. And so that's the reason I started doing the working out, and it almost instantly reversed any of that stuff.
Yeah.
And I didn't really have that when I was doing the going to do, because I would go to work, we'd go to work 5-6 o'clock in the morning. I'd get home, go straight to the farm and be moving hay, working with, I think I had a horse I was working with back then, and I was showing a lamb, and I was moving sprinkler pipes. I was doing all this stuff. It was awesome. It was great. It was like, and that's kind of the experience I had, where it's like our bodies can do a ton more than we think.
Oh yeah.
But if you're doing that much, you probably don't necessarily need the workouts. It's probably like mobility stuff. You need to be stretching, or like doing those accessory workouts that's not necessarily doing like this heavy weight or anything, but strengthening reverse motions of what you're doing.
Yeah.
Like the knees over toes guy. You would think basketball players, with all of the information they have and all of that, and they have coaches, that they would never have problems with their body. But a lot of them have insane knee problems.
Oh yeah.
It's from the impact and all of that.
Yep.
And it's all of that constant impact in a forward motion where your knee is at, and not working the reverse of that. the muscles that are surrounding your knee
Right.
to strengthen the reverse motion of it
Mhm.
that wears out your knee. And when you're wearing out the muscles in your forward motion and you don't have the ones supporting, then that's when you start to get problems around your joints because you don't have the muscles around it strengthening from the impact and the movement that you have. So my whole thing with the working out is like, yeah, what you need to be doing is strengthening your body, but like specifically like opposite of what you do.
Right.
Because like you said, it's a very intensive back deal working in construction. Deadlifts fixed your back for
Yep. No doubt.
for back then.
Mhm.
Same thing with scoliosis. I know quite a few people that have had scoliosis,
Yeah.
reversed it. But what do
Yeah.
doctors say?
Yeah, you need surgery.
You need surgery. You can't do this. You can't do that. So it's this interesting, like, I think people take it too far with fitness, but I also think a lot of people, because they see those people taking it too far, they just don't do anything. And I
Yeah.
think it's a fine line. I think it's, you can probably do what you need to do 20, 30, 45 minutes, a few days a week.
Well, what did Peter Attia,
Yeah.
what did he say? So he's got a new book out and I listened to a podcast he was on with Jocko, and so all the numbers show 3 hours of exercise a week. So exercise being walking.
Yeah.
Like that's exercise. So if you do that 3 hours a week, divide that up over 4 walks, it's, whatever, do the math. It increases your risk for all cause mortality, or takes it away by 50%. So you're more likely to live and not die of everything by 50%.
Yeah.
Those are insane numbers.
Yeah. He said actually too, and I don't know if it was necessarily walking. I took it as working out or exercise, but regardless, he said that there's more benefits in 0 to 3, going from 0 to 3 hours a week, than there is from going 5 to 15.
Right. Yep.
Of like, imagine like the same stuff. Like say you're working out an hour every single day during the week.
Yeah.
If you switch that to like, even more, you're not going to see nearly as much as you would from going from 0 to 3.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, super interesting.
Yeah. And really, and all it is like stepping out your door and walking around the block or walking down the road. But so there again, there's all those things that who do you have to become?
Yeah.
Because so in my little town that is like, I'm not gonna tell everybody where I live. Well, I shouldn't tell everybody where I live because it is so cool.
Yeah.
Like the kids run around their bikes. It's like Happyville.
Mm-hmm.
You can walk around this town and you're not going to get run over by a car. You can do whatever you want. There's probably out of 1,000 people, 5 people that walk.
Yeah.
And my wife and I are 2 of them.
Mm-hmm.
And so what's keeping those people from walking? What's keeping those people from doing the one little thing that will extend their life or make that last 10 years of their life different? Like you may not extend your life, but the chances of you making the last 10 livable, or an entirely different type of quality.
It's something that Peter Attia talks about. I think he does health span versus lifespan.
Yeah. Right.
I hear that and I'm like, instantly think about, okay, well, you're talking about how long will you be healthy versus how long will you live? They're 2 different things.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people think all of the stuff that they're doing, like the smoking, all that, it's going to kill them early. It's more likely they're going to live just as long, but the last 10, 15, 20 years of their life is going to be miserable. And that what you're doing with the exercise is prolonging your health span, not necessarily your lifespan, which is something that I don't think like a differentiation people make.
Yeah.
Because it's uncomfortable in the moment. All of that exercise, the walking, it's not.
Well, and what are people going to think of you that you're walking down the road?
Yeah.
Well, they're all going to think that I'm fat, like, or I don't have the right workout clothes to go for a walk. And that comes like that type of mentality feeds into every aspect of your life. Like, well, I'm scared to say this to my wife, or I'm scared to make a social media post for like to put my phone in my face,
Mhm.
and everybody's uncomfortable doing that, but to actually go through with it
Yeah.
and then post it, like those are all the same exact things. Because what happens when I start going to the gym and all my friends find out that I'm going to the gym? Well, they're going to give me a hard time.
They're gonna think I'm trying to lose weight or be a bodybuilder. Like
Yeah.
it's always the extremes.
Yeah.
Like,
Or what's my family going
yeah.
to say? Or
Yeah.
those are the same things that you tell yourself, that train you run through your head of all the excuses
Yeah.
of why I'm not going to do this in business and this
Mhm.
in my marriage and this with my kids. And it always comes down to what other people are thinking.
Yeah.
And so the exercise is the same thing, because it's so simple.
Yeah.
Just go for a walk.
Yeah.
But well, people are going to see me. It all comes full circle.
Yeah.
So,
Well, it all comes full circle.
yeah.
I think that's probably our good end point right there.
Yeah.
It came full circle.
That's an hour already.
Oh no,
Or-
it's been longer than that.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, yeah. Thanks for coming on, Jared.
Yeah. Appreciate you
Where
having
can
me.
people go find you?
So JA Construction
Mhm.
on Instagram, and Jared Adams on Facebook.
Mhm.
But and then website that you guys built us,
Yeah.
adamspostframe.com,
Oh yeah.
makes us look like we are the bougiest
Well,
most organized construction company out there.
the pictures help.
Yeah. The pictures were awesome.
From
for
Courtney.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well,
Okay. Appreciate
glad
it.
we finally got this done. So,
Yeah.
thanks for coming on.
Yep. Thanks.